Welcome back, everyone. Today, we're going to talk about the April 2026 Canmore real estate market. Weather's getting a little bit nicer and the market is staying somewhat steady. So let's just kind of get right into it. Let's talk about Canmore quick. So we had 37 sales. Average sale price was just under 1.35 million. The average square foot price was $780 a foot, and it took an average of 48 days to sell.
Three sales in Banff, 1.35 was the average sale price. $767 a square foot was the average square foot price, and 53 days on the market.
Dead Man's Flats, there were two sales. 614,000 was the average sale price. The average square foot price was $626 a foot, and it took an average of 41 days to sell. The other markets, Lac des Arcs, Harvey Heights, and Exshaw, had no sales recorded for April. Do you want to talk about the Canmore market in a little bit more depth here, starting with single family homes and what we saw?
Okay, so 36 active at the end of April, 10 sales, 1.851 million was the average sale price, $870 a square foot, and 45 days average days on market.
Townhomes, we have 38 active townhomes. There were 11 sales recorded for April. Average sale price for those properties was 1.1 million. Average square foot price was $682 a foot, and it took an average of 39 days to sell. And I just want to confirm those are townhouses.
Apartments, 41 active on the market, 6 sales, $651,000 was the average sale price. Average square foot price, $659 a foot, and 70 days on the market.
Half duplexes, we saw 10 active half duplexes as of May 1st. 6 sales were recorded in April. The average sale price was 1.858 million. The average square foot price was $676 a foot, and it took 51 days to move those 6 properties on average.
Okay, the investment market, the short-term rentals, 19 inventory in the hotel condo market, 3 sales, $812,000 was the average sale price. $1,118 was the average square foot price, and 46 days in the market.
Tourist homes, we have 8 active tourist homes. There was only 1 sale in April. That property sold for 1.375. The square foot price for that was $1,237 a foot, and it took 66 days to move. So overall, short-term rental market, not a lot happening there, which I think is stemming directly from inventory. Usually we see that be a little bit busier this time of year leading into summer and whatnot. People can usually sell with ease, and then there's lots of demand from the buyer's perspective, which we know to be the case, just with what we're kind of navigating right now with the challenges of there not being a lot of stuff out there.
Yeah, except for the pre-construction, there's not a lot of used inventory.
Yeah. Let's we'll give our Coles notes on what we're seeing and kind of where it's going and how it affects each specific person depending on where you fit in. But I want to talk about the sold listings year to date and some inventory levels and whatnot. So sold listings year to date, in 2025, we had 160. In 2026, we have 139. So this is a good indicator of kind of like the first quarter of the year. 5-year average is 162. So we are a little bit below kind of where we would like to see that, but nothing to necessarily be alarmed of. I think, like we discussed previously, part of that is the short-term rentals, a lot of it being the pre-construction stuff, and there not being the inventory levels that we're kind of used to there.
Yeah.
But maybe touch on the end of month active inventory and what we're seeing for active properties.
Yeah, so we had 146 in 2025 year to date. We have 152 year to date in 2026. The average, 5-year average is 124. So we're up about 4%. So this is a better indication for me based on what we're seeing with the short-term rental market that we're not as far off. with the end of month active inventory. Yes, the 5 year average, but you have to remember a lot of that 5 year average was taken into consideration through COVID when
Hmm.
the market was just, off the charts. So
Yeah.
I think, we're probably closer to where we need to be. In fact, I think we probably need some more product, obviously, especially in
Yeah.
certain sectors of the market.
Yeah. Absolutely. Average sale price year to date too. 1.36 million was the average sale price year to date for 2025. And we're just about 1.275 for 2026. Again, I know we've sound like a broken record here because of what had sold last year. We're
Yeah.
seeing the 2025 year to date every single month drop down. And
Hmm.
then the 2026 year to date, we're seeing obviously come up. Last month, it was about 125.
Yeah.
The 5 year average is just over 1.1 million, which we always know that we're going to be over that, but a good indication of kind of where things are sitting, and not a lot of concern there, more optimism for sure. I think the market is sometimes I feel like in April it's kind of like the November of the fall
Yeah.
and the winter. It tends to be a little bit quiet. There's spring break going on. Kids are still in school. It's just kind of that lull season where it's like it's nice out one day and then it's like rainy and snowing and
Hmm.
cold. It's a little all over. Which surprisingly enough kind of affects the real estate market. But in general, for April, I thought it was pretty consistent. Like I didn't think we changed much from March, and
No.
March was a really good month for us. So I think the stability in the market from March is a positive sign for sure.
Yeah, 100%. And I think that leads into, the Coles notes on all of this.
Yep.
You know, what what does it mean for buyers? Let's talk about buyers first. Um, I think from a buyer's perspective, depending on there is a sector of the market that there isn't a lot of overpricing, but there is some. And
Yeah.
we talked about this last month. There are a few realtors that may be the way they attract listings. I'm not sure. I don't know their model, but you know, and we'll talk about sellers in a minute about how you need to be on the offense rather than the defense. But from a buyer's perspective, you need to be prepared, you need to be ready, you need to understand the market, and you need to understand pricing. And if you do those things, especially coming into, let's say, the short-term rental market where you and I have half a dozen to 10 clients that are ready to go, um, because the inventory has been lower on the used market, that once those do come to market, which they conceivably will, as they usually do at this time of year, you're prepared. So, you don't have to be like super aggressive. We're not seeing a ton of multiples. We may in the short term, I'm not sure, but understanding, pricing, and we're in a very balanced market right now.
Yep. And
Yeah.
I think kind of the same approach almost goes towards the buyers too. Like I think that it's important to be on the offensive side and not the defensive side. And by that I mean get educated, because the market is still moving at a pace where if you're not educated and you don't go through the initial steps and learning the market and learning the zonings and learning what you're looking for, if you're somebody that's a little bit new to it,
Yeah.
then that takes some time for you to be able to buy something with some comfortability. Otherwise you're going into properties and you're going, how come this has been on the market for 100 days?
Yeah.
Or, why is this property dropped in price so much? How come this property is going into multiple offers? And it's just, you're just uneducated, and that's
Yeah.
okay. That's why you have professionals like ourselves. But if you can get educated on that stuff, a lot of the times you can just feel way more comfortable, way more confident. You're not necessarily asking as many questions, and questions are totally okay, but you're asking the right questions.
Yeah.
Um, and you're just going to feel better throughout the process. So I think the same thing goes for buyers. Um, Now, tying that into sellers, obviously, it's a little bit of a broken record when we're talking about how you should be pricing your property right
Right.
now, because overpriced listings are still sitting. Obviously, there's certain inventory that's just going to take longer to sell just based on what it is.
Yeah.
Um, and I think it's really important for sellers to understand what they have for a product and what types of buyers they're going to attract and what those buyers are going to be looking at. Lots of times, if we're talking, entry level single family homes, we're talking about a clientele where, maybe they're stretching to get into this market, right? Like they're
Yeah.
stretching to get a single family home. So
Yeah.
they're gonna they're gonna notice things a little bit more. They're gonna, try and, in a sense, nickel and dime a little bit more. Whereas if you're 3 million plus, you can get away with pricing maybe a couple $100,000 over ask or over what it's worth, and somebody might still come in with an offer, and you
Yeah.
guys are going to kind of find a way to meet in the middle.
Yeah.
Um, I
This is
s-
true for
yeah,
sure.
I still think that it's really important to be pricing on the offensive side because I do think you're going to get more money if your goal is to list your place and sell it. List it for a price that, is market value,
Yeah.
or very close to it because it's gonna put more money in your pocket. I can guarantee you it every single time.
Well, and I think too, because there is so much education for buyers and we're preaching that, sellers have to respect that and understand. It's not like before where, because of the internet and AI and all of these things, people are educated, sometimes not in the best way, but they still have a ton of data, right?
Mhm.
So they understand a little bit more than if we were 5 or 10 years ago, where most of the information came from a realtor, you
Yeah.
know? And so in some ways it was easier to educate, but as a seller, what you have to understand is being in a balanced market that we're in, you have to be aware of market value 100%.
Yeah. And the
Yeah.
buyers are there. The buyers are there. They're just
Yeah.
they're not gonna overpay for your property, so it's
No.
important to recognize that.
Yeah.
Um, we'll talk about investors quickly. I don't think there's a whole lot to talk about here. We're obviously seeing a little bit of a shortage in the resale inventory when it comes to the hotel, condo, tourist home properties.
Hmm.
I'd like to see some more. I find that there's some inventory, but it's not the inventory that I'm kind of looking for
Yeah.
certain people. That's the biggest thing. Um, I think that, you know, they're still drawing a relatively strong demand for price per square foot. If they're overpriced, they're not going to sell it. The same applies to the short term rental market as it does the investor market,
Yeah.
unless you have a 10 out of 10 unicorn property. Um, but yeah, I think that market is still strong. And I think there's people that really want to try and get in the next month and a half, 60 days at the latest.
Hmm.
Because they want some summer revenue.
Yeah.
So
It's
I
an
don't know if you're
interesting
seeing
market
something
to,
else.
no, I see the same thing. And like you, I expect some more inventory in that category,
Yeah.
where we can, hopefully drive that market for the investors.
Yeah. Obviously, we have some pre-construction complexes that are kind of getting set to launch.
Hmm.
We have some opinions on that. We're not going to ramble on in this video. If you you know are if you have your name on that list, or if you're interested in pre-construction, give us a call and we'll gladly talk to you about it. You're going to get our honest, no BS approach, because I think that's important with pre-construction because there's lots of questions. There's lots of, um, you know, things that aren't necessarily predictable, but you can get some guidance on it because
Yeah.
we've seen how some of these have panned out, both good and indifferent. So again, reach out to us about that. We're happy to have conversations about those. We know about all of them. But as far as the market goes in general, moving to May here, I think that we're gonna maybe have just a little bit of an uptake from April, just because of how April tends to be, and then it'll be interesting to see how the summer goes. I think a lot of it depends on what kind of inventory we're going to get within the next 30 days,
Yeah, I'm with you. I think that, overall we didn't change much, from the
which is
previous
good.
month of March, which is good. Um, like to see some more inventory, but I think we got a strong market here like we usually do, and I expect it to stay the same. Bank of Canada held their rate. Who knows
Yeah.
what that's going to look like? But as of right now, Bank of Canada held their rate, so that's a
Yeah.
good thing moving into May here.
Yeah. And I think the biggest thing to kind of summarize this whole month is that if you're kind of waiting for a big correction, I think you're going to be waiting a long time. I think that with what we're seeing from the Bank of Canada with their rates and kind of what we're seeing with the market statistics, I think that we're in a very stable economy when we're looking at Canmore real estate.
Hmm.
And I think that the stability provides buyers and sellers time to get educated. And I think it just helps them make informed decisions. I think when we get too far on the other end of the spectrum, it just creates some urgency. It can create some poor decision making, and it's just not as good for the market. So if you're looking to make a move, I do think that you can do it at a comfortable pace right now,
Yeah,
which is important. So definitely a good time to be chatting real estate for sure. So if you have any questions or you want the statistics or the data, please reach out to us. We're always happy to provide it. Like and subscribe to the channel. It does help us kind of continue to do what we do with this, and at least hopefully try and get some people to feel a little bit more comfortable or a little bit more confident or find this valuable. It's always our goal to do that. So we look forward to coming at you with the May statistics and kind of seeing what happens in the next month with new inventory and sales. So we'll hit you in May with another market update. Bye for now.